These mines stopped. Yeah, I think 1955. After the war, this mine went down. It was still running, but it was less and less worker. The coal mine, the iron mine, all these mines kept the town going with work during war, before the war. But after the war, when all that was destroyed, like I said, we had this factory which my mom worked in when she was very young, made sausage, pâtés, a lot of the product that they ship all over France. Then in 1951, we have a shipment of American boys. The war is over. They came to our town to help rebuild a factory. So these 20, I don't remember exactly how many, maybe 20, 25 American boys. They come to our little town. Most of these guys were specialized in refrigeration. They shipped us to our town to come and fix this factory. I was 17, still behind that bar that my mom and her sister had opened up. And every night they came and had a drink, and I was behind the bar. I couldn't speak English, but that's always the way that you can make yourself understand. And my dad, who played the accordion, played for these boys. They were his hero. They liberated them. They kept them alive. And I sang. I love to sing. I sang for them. It was a wonderful time. Then one of the boys out of the gang, his name was Joseph Elton Baldwin. He said to my dad, "I'm gonna marry your daughter." And my father laughed, of course, and said, "I have only one child. You know what? This is a wonderful time right now. You guys are having good time, but guess what? It's never gonna happen. You wanna marry her, you'll come back when you're done with the service and we'll see if you mean business." La Java, and it used to be La Java was a dance, like a tango, a waltz, foxtrot, and La Java they'd be dancing and having great time. La Java. Well, La Java, which I saw in April this year, it's nothing left, of course. Everything is gone. It was a little bar after my uncle was my father's older brother, and he was my godfather. And that was a place where my mother went and danced. My dad played his accordion there with his brother. And I was born right upstairs on the other side.
You were born
Yeah, I'll show you the upstairs. My uncle owned it. And my parents, they had got married and they had a place to stay. His brother was my father's brother's place. On Sunday, Saturday night, big thing, go to the Java and dance. I danced at the Java, I was 12, 13. And then when the Americans came, that was the place to have a good time. They would come, they would have their pants rolled up by suspenders, and we laughed because no Frenchman would wear but the soldier, and they danced with the French girl. So about 25 soldier American came. The city or the government gave them somebody's house, one of the rich men's house, to stay there. And the soldier had a ball because they had their private chef. They come down here to work at the Solpa. And at night they would stop at our little bar, which we will see, and then have fun, have good time. And that's how I met Joe. It was a wonderful time. Then one of the boys out of the gang, His name was Joseph Elton Baldwin. He said to my dad, I'm going to marry your daughter. And my father laughed, of course, and said, I have only one child. You know what? This is a wonderful time right now. You guys are having good time. But guess what? It'll never gonna happen. You want to marry her, you'll come back when you're done with the service and we'll see if you mean business. Well, guess what? He did come back. So he came back, but he never wrote. So I start crying, and my mom said, look, if the American don't come back, I'm gonna buy you a nice little car, and you're gonna drive to Italy, and you're gonna have more boyfriend. I don't want a boyfriend, I don't want a car. I want him to come back. And then when he came back, he was dressed in civilian with the little jacket. I said, Simone was like my sister. I said, I don't know this girl. I'm not marrying this girl. She said, Pierrette, you got to. I said, what do you mean I got to? I said, I don't know him. Because he didn't look, because they say most of, not just the French girl, the soldier, the girls fall in love with the uniform. It's always bad. Oh, the poor guy. But anyway, so we drove long. Then he came back. He had no money. He had borrowed money to come back to marry me because he was from a very poor family. Joe, who was then a GI who came back to marry me, there was no money in his pocket, so my uncle would say, you get in the door and you collect just the money, and then he could eat here and we could stay and dance, but he was not a dancer. The only time I got him to dance was when he came to France the first time, and I introduced him to my uncle's place. He came and danced again with the suspender, but he didn't want to do that. And this part was the bar. And he would come here and help also to make sandwich for my uncle, so on. Those were fun days because he didn't speak French and I didn't speak English. Papa, I met him in Homecourt. But then when the American left, our town was all communist. That they told my parents, you will burn your place down because now the Americans are gone. See, France had a betterness with the American. We got rid of the business, and my father took over an hotel near a big city called Metz. So this is where used to be a big hotel called Hotel Bel Air. When Joe came back to marry me, we were at the Hotel Bel Air. That was the name of the hotel. And he was working at my parents' bar to be able to pay for his room and board and his living. He had no money. My dad would give him money. So he worked at the Hotel Bel Air for a while. See? The church, that's where I got married. Never went back. Jesus, you let me get back here. Bonjour, monsieur. They're redoing it. Oh my God, that's so old, Tyler. Thank you, dear God, thank you. But I was married in a little town called Cichazel, that little church up on a hill. I got married there February 3rd, 1953. Joe didn't speak much French, but he spoke good German because he had been stationed a couple of years. So the priest who spoke, of course, in those days, sooner you got close to Metz, everybody spoke German. I didn't. The priest talked to my husband en allemand, in German. And he asked him if he would marry me, like it goes in church. So we got married the same day twice. First to the mayor, which is the rule in France. Ask anyone who's been married in France. You get married in front of the mayor, at the mairie, and then you go to the church and you get married by the priest. And there was 30 people, and we had one American, Captain Fender, Fender. He ended up in Baltimore. We went and visited him years after. But he was the only one representing Joe because everybody in this wedding was French. And his family, they were too poor. They could never come to the wedding or even think about it. Then when my dad told his friend, I'm giving up, the kids are going to we got married Hotel Bel Air. Kids going to get married and I'm going to buy myself a little house in the country. And then my dad asked Joe if he wanted to stay in France. He would keep the hotel and make a living here. And my husband said, no, I'm an American. I'm never going to work. I'm never going to be able to work here. And it was offered. He could have stayed here, Joe. But he figured out, I don't think, and in those days, the Americans were not really welcome in France. And as a young girl, I never understood why, because after all, they did save our life. Then, I've been hearing for the past 10 years at least, the people in France were wonderful to us. And then I felt like goosebump in my body. I felt like it's about time. Because I think my dad had only one child. I was very young, but he wanted me in the state because he was liberated. He was ready to die without the American. And I think that's why they never fought, my mom and dad never fought about me coming to the state. Because they knew first that my guy was a good guy. And he always said, I have no money, my family have no money, but I have two hands and I can work hard and always take care of her. I think it was just meant to be that the good Lord does everything for a reason to send this guy in our little town of 12,000 people. Would you believe this? And to make a life for me the way it turned out.
Up in the feeling, I get tunnel vision. Every time I see you, everything around you